The Woodward was an integral part of the community. It isn't by itself in history. It intertwines with every other thing that took place.
The Woodward is important for a number of reasons. I think the first is it tells a story of a time and place that if we lost vestiges of places like this, we'd really lose the context of how a community grew, how it celebrated, how it entertained. And it also talks about a cultural phenomena too, a time when the variety show, the minstrel, really set the stage of evolution for us to have the variety show of today.
The Woodward is going to provide an opportunity for people to come here. It'll be a reason to come downtown.
Ebenezer Woodward is the gentleman who constructed the building. In 1850, he decided he wanted a larger building complex to house several businesses, and at that time he also had the vision of having a theater on the upper floor.
He built the building with 3 floors of commercial space and a 4th floor theater.
And with so many layers of history. One of the things that's going to be interesting with this project is that it'll illustrate an attitude toward the way social classes mix, the attitudes people had toward the theater.
First floor businesses are obviously going to receive the most customers, the most income, and therefore they would pay the most rent. Second floor, and that's generally where you would have the doctor's offices, the lawyer's offices, a lot of realty offices.
As the evening hours came around, of course, there were things like theater activities, or there were lectures on whatever was going on in the community that needed addressed, whether that be political or social. The Opera House would be the center of those activities.
In the 1850s to 1870s, it was primarily a small stage on the 4th floor, used for meeting halls and smaller performances.
Because of how busy it became, he decided to increase the size of the theater, and in the late 1870s he began construction on that project to engulf 2 additional buildings, and then move the theater stage down to the 3rd floor and create this beautiful horseshoe balcony which you see.
He took the Shakespearean model, reversed it. Took the people who had stood on the floor, put them up at the back of the balcony. Took the people in the side tiers, they stayed in the side tiers, but this whole middle group occupied what had been the place for the groundlings. They changed the name of it from the pit to the parquet, gave it a fancy French name.
Before the seating was even put in, the local roller skating club used this space.
As a matter of fact, the very first activity in the Opera House was about electricity. It was a lecture where they had too big of a crowd somewhere else, and the Woodward Hall was virtually almost done, and they moved it up here because they had the space.
It was basically a vaudeville house.
But what people don't realize is it wasn't just a theater. It was a meeting hall, it was a social gathering place.
Well, the one everybody talks about is Dan Emmett's last appearance on this stage, where he was very frail, and the audience, in effect, was serenading him rather than him serenading them.
On the balcony, you can still see the horseshoe scoreboards.
My father was born in Mount Vernon, and he played basketball here. Can you believe that?
The one thing that I'm reminded of is when William McKinley was running for president, he gave a speech here on this stage.
Ebenezer Woodward would be very pleased that we're sitting here today talking about the revitalization of this facility and making it an important part of the life of this community. I think that's what he probably had in mind when he created it, and the fact that 150 years later we're still anticipating that as a continuing legacy would make him very pleased.
We all believe that it is a valid part of our future, something we need to build on. The Woodward Opera House is something people will be interested in and will come to Mount Vernon to see.